Pick up your phone. Think about your laptop, the car in your driveway, and the AI everyone at work suddenly can't stop talking about. Every one of those things has something in common, and it traces back to a single island, roughly the size of Belgium, that most of the world treats as a geopolitical afterthought. That island is Taiwan, and it makes something like 90% of the world's most advanced computer chips, the slivers of silicon that run basically all modern technology. Not most of them, almost all of them. The United States alone buys around 92% of its most advanced chips from a single Taiwanese company, which means one island, really one company on it, is now a single point of failure for the entire global economy. If it stopped tomorrow, phones, cars, weapon systems, the whole AI boom, all of it grinds to a halt. But here's the part that turns a business story into a survival story. That total dependence might be the only thing standing between Taiwan and a Chinese invasion. So how did a small island nobody was paying attention to end up holding the world's most important industry in its hands? And why is the one thing keeping it safe now being quietly taken apart? Let's deconstruct it. To understand how this happened, you have to go back to a Taiwan that had none of it, and to a man who, by any normal measure, should have been finished. Because the most important company on Earth exists today largely because of a mid-career humiliation in Texas. Get that origin wrong, and this all looks like destiny. It was much closer to a second act nobody saw coming. In the early 1980s, Taiwan's economy ran on low-margin manufacturing, assembling other people's products for gross margins of around 4 or 5%. It had cheap, skilled labor, but almost no expertise in chip design, research, or the high-end intellectual property the rich world guarded so jealously. The government knew the model had a ceiling, and badly wanted a way up. What it didn't have was anyone who could build one. Meanwhile, in the United States, Morris Chang had spent 25 years at Texas Instruments, becoming one of the country's most respected semiconductor executives. Born in mainland China, educated at MIT and Stanford, he'd risen to run TI's entire global chip business. Then his career stalled. He was moved sideways into a division that didn't suit him, effectively demoted, and in 1983, at 52, he left the company he'd given his life to. And here's the detail I keep coming back to. In 1985, more or less as a soft retirement, Chang accepted an offer to move to Taiwan and run a government research institute. He genuinely thought his big career was behind him. Instead, within 2 years, a Taiwanese minister named KT Lee handed him a mission: build this island a semiconductor industry from basically nothing. So the most valuable manufacturing operation in human history was founded in 1987 by a 55-year-old man who'd just been pushed out of his old job and had come to Taiwan expecting to wind down. That demotion is the reason any of this exists at all. Taiwan could already build factories. Chang's real contribution was a single idea about how one particular factory should work. An idea so counterintuitive that the two biggest chip companies in America turned it down flat before you found anyone willing to fund it. And that one idea is the reason your phone and the entire modern tech industry exist in the shape they do. Here's how the chip world worked before Taiwan. A company like Intel did everything itself. It designed its chips and built its own multi-billion-dollar factories to make them. Design and manufacturing were welded together. So a brilliant young engineer with a genius design but no factory was stuck. A fab cost more than almost anyone could raise, and the only people who could build your chip were the giants you'd be competing against. Chang's idea was to rip those two things apart. TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, would be a pure-play foundry. It would manufacture chips and only manufacture them. It would never design its own products and never compete with its own customers. Its whole promise was, send us your design, we'll build it, and we will never, ever try to become you. It sounds obvious now. At the time, it was heresy. Every serious chip company believed keeping design and manufacturing together was the whole advantage. Intel passed. Texas Instruments, Chang's old employer, passed. In the end, half the money came from the Taiwanese government and much of the rest from the Dutch company Philips, because American industry simply couldn't see it. But by promising never to compete, TSMC unlocked something nobody expected. You could start a chip company with no factory at all. NVIDIA, Apple, Qualcomm, AMD, some of the biggest names in tech design their chips and hand them to TSMC to build. Taiwan's one real strength, manufacturing, became the thing the whole world had to come to it for. So TSMC had a clever business model, but clever models get copied. The real question is why nearly 40 years later, almost nobody can still do what this one company does. The answer is a moat so deep, the richest countries on Earth are throwing tens of billions at it and still can't cross it. If you're finding this as fascinating as I did going down this rabbit hole, subscribing takes 2 seconds, and the next one of these just lands in your feed. Anyway, making a leading-edge chip is arguably the most complicated thing humanity manufactures. A modern fab costs tens of billions to build and needs thousands of specialized engineers and hundreds of impossibly precise machines. The tools that etch the finest circuits, made by a single Dutch company, ASML, are among the most complex devices ever built. And even then, getting enough working chips off the line takes decades of know-how that can't simply be bought. TSMC has been compounding that longer and harder than anyone else alive. And this is where it quietly reaches into your life. That phone in your pocket, its brain was almost certainly made by TSMC. The AI tools rewriting how your industry works run on NVIDIA chips, and essentially every one of those is made by TSMC. Your newer car might carry hundreds of chips from that same island. You were never asked about any of this. A supply chain most people have never heard of runs underneath nearly every piece of technology you touch. Put the numbers together and they're almost hard to believe. Taiwan produces over 90% of the world's most advanced chips. One company, one island. For the single most strategically important product of the 21st century, the entire planet runs on a supply that comes, overwhelmingly, from one place. A place another government, 90 miles away, insists belongs to it. That last fact, one island 90 miles from a giant that claims it, is where this stops being an economic story and turns into something much tenser. Because Taiwan's chip dominance isn't only an industry. Somewhere along the way, it quietly became the island's national defense strategy. And it has a name. It's called the Silicon Shield. The theory, from a 2001 book by Craig Addison, runs like this. Because Taiwan makes such an enormous share of the world's chips, no major power can afford to let anything happen to it. If China seized or destroyed TSMC's factories, it wouldn't just hurt Taiwan. It would detonate the global economy and cripple China and the United States along with it. So the argument goes, the world would defend Taiwan out of raw self-interest. The chips are the shield. You can see why the idea is seductive. Taiwan can't outgun China, but it may not have to. It made itself so economically indispensable that attacking it would mean burning down something the aggressor and everyone else desperately needs intact. It's deterrence through sheer irreplaceability rather than firepower. Now, I have to be honest about the size of the thing nobody actually knows here. Whether the shield truly works has never once been tested, and I genuinely can't tell you if it would hold. We don't know if China would swallow the economic pain and invade anyway. And we don't know if the United States would really go to war with a nuclear-armed China over an island it doesn't even officially recognize. The whole strategy rests on a bluff neither side has, so far, chosen to call. An uneasy thing to build a nation's survival on. That uncertainty is exactly why analysts have called Taiwan the most dangerous place on Earth. Conflict isn't certain, far from it. But so much of the world's future is stacked on one small island that everyone is quietly betting the stack is too valuable for anyone to knock over. For 20 years, that shield mostly held, and the arrangement suited nearly everyone. But right now, in real time, the whole thing is being quietly dismantled, and the strangest part is who's doing the dismantling. Not China, Taiwan's closest ally, the United States, and to some extent, Taiwan itself. After the pandemic and a global chip shortage exposed how dangerously concentrated the supply chain was, the United States decided it could no longer depend on one island across the Pacific. In 2022, it passed the CHIPS Act, putting tens of billions on the table to pull chip making back onto American soil. And it's working. TSMC is now building an enormous complex in Arizona, a planned investment that has ballooned to roughly $165 billion. And it's building in Japan and Germany too. The Trump administration has pushed harder still, threatening steep tariffs unless production moves stateside. Now, the reassuring line you'll hear is that the shield is fine, because the most advanced chips are staying in Taiwan. Here's where I'll push back, because I think that quietly misses the point. The silicon shield was only ever really about one belief in Washington, that America needs Taiwan, the physical place, to get technology it can't live without. And every fab that opens in Arizona chips away at that belief. The real danger isn't loud or sudden. It creeps closer with every factory built abroad, until one day, Washington decides it no longer needs the island at all. That horizon is far closer than the comfortable version admits. So Taiwan is caught in a brutal bind. Saying no to its most important ally isn't really an option, but saying yes means slowly exporting the one irreplaceable thing that keeps it safe. Every factory it builds abroad makes the world's supply chain more resilient, and its own island a little more expendable. The very success that built the shield is now taking it apart. Morris Chang is in his 90s now, long retired from the company he built out of a midlife setback. He took an island the world overlooked and made it the one place the world can't function without. In doing it, he handed Taiwan a shield made of pure economic necessity, buying it decades of a strange, tense safety no army could ever have provided. So here's where I land. Taiwan's chip dominance isn't really a business success story. It's the most sophisticated national survival strategy any small country has ever built. It turned being irreplaceable into a kind of armor, and for a generation, that armor worked. But armor made of dependence only holds while you're the only one who has the thing. And right now, slowly, deliberately, and with the best of intentions, the rest of the world is learning to make that thing for itself. That's the quiet paradox sitting under the most important industry on the planet, my friends. The very success that made Taiwan indispensable is the same success now teaching everyone else how to live without it. Whether that shield holds another 20 years or slowly dissolves may be one of the most important open questions of the next decade, and almost nobody outside that island is really watching it happen. Taiwan's whole story is a country that turned its economy into its defense, making itself so valuable that in theory, no one can afford to touch it. But there's a country on the other side of the world that bet on the exact opposite idea, and it's every bit as fascinating. Instead of making itself indispensable, this country made itself deliberately harmless. In 1948, fresh off winning a civil war, its leader walked into a military barracks, smashed a hole in the wall with a sledgehammer, and abolished the country's army, permanently. Everyone assumed that would leave it defenseless. Instead, it became the most stable, prosperous democracy in its region, with people living longer there than almost anywhere else in the Americas. That's Costa Rica, the country that got rid of its military and got rich. The video breaks down exactly how that bet paid off, and the crisis testing it right now, it's on the channel.